Welcome to the Legacymakers podcast. At Legacymakers, we believe that family is the foundation of society. And if you can change a family, you will change the world. The Legacymakers podcast is dedicated to bringing you relative, inspiring, and educational content to help you build and leave the legacy you intend to leave. If this episode encourages you or inspires you in any way, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at www.chooseourlegacy.com. Thanks and enjoy the show. All right. Hey, well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, families, kids of all ages. So thankful you guys are listening in today. We're excited to be back on the show with the four originals, Beto, George, Ben A, and Ben G. We're just so thankful for the opportunity to be able to do this. We're excited for what we're going to be talking about today. Like Legacymakers is known for, we're going to be talking about family legacy today. And the title of this episode is called, What Are the Building Blocks of a Family Legacy? What are the building blocks of a family legacy? And this was all inspired around what goes in to really instill and establish a legacy that lasts generations. And so it's going to be really important that we tune in and really listen into these conversations because it's going to be really, really impactful for all the families out there. So thanks again for listening, and let's just dive in. So my first question for all of us here is, when you think of a legacy, what do you think of, or what comes to mind when you think of a legacy?
Yeah, well, I love the way you wrote the original question about the building blocks, and it answers your question as well. What's the first thing that comes to my mind? And the very first thing that's floating to the top for me is just a worldview. You know, how you think about the world does shape the worlds we live in, for sure. It might shape the world at large, too, I think. But certainly the local worlds that we inhabit, our view and interpretation of all the things that are going on around us and the things that happen to us, matters a great deal. And I think it's something you have, whether you know it or not, and you're handing it off, whether you know it or not. And so even if it's not in writing somewhere, everyone has a worldview. And
I love that.
And we hand that off.
So good.
Love it. For me, the word impact comes to mind. And it's that the impact that we leave that cannot be taken, the impression, in the ground that doesn't fade away. You think about when you lay on the ground for a long time or on some grass, and then you get up and it looks like you left like a snow angel or something, but an impression that will always remain. Yeah. And the impact we leave on their lives that will just carry on and penetrate through additional generations as well. To me, that's the legacy. That's something that will last, that can never be taken.
That's a great image. I love that idea.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me is, and it really kind of comes from a book that Craig Rochelle wrote, I think, but it's like the idea of like, what kind of mark are you going to leave? Like what's the impression that people are going to remember, and even for your own personal life, what's like the mark? It's like what comes to mind for me is like that question causes me to think about the end of my life and how I want people to remember me.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Love it. I think for me it's story. Like I think of life and it's story. To me, I think of the Bible and it's like story. Yeah. And what makes sense is with Legacymakers is it's a story that matters. I've been thinking about what is I feel like there's a difference. I was talking to this guy and he's like, there's a difference between passion and purpose. And I'm like, okay, yeah, talk to me a little bit more about that. And then he developed but basically, the idea of purpose is so linked to story because story is it's almost like what impression are you gonna leave, what mark are you gonna leave on other people, and it's worldview, it's persuasion, and when I think of the Bible, I feel like wow, this is the epic story of persuasion that brings humanity together and it offers like an opportunity for a new humanity that starts here. And it starts, I mean, family is like the one place where all of that starts, right? Where you start witnessing what forgiveness and kindness and love and compassion and all those can look like. So that's where you start making the story, right? And maybe later I'll tell you a story of, because I think you'll have a question about kind of like where we've seen, legacy for our own lives. So I'll tell you guys a little bit of, story I have there.
I love that you talk right away about narrative and story, Beto, because for me, when I say worldview, definitely the word that's coming around the corner is biblical worldview, right? But I love your description of it because the Bible is an oral tradition. It is a narrative history that's been handed down. A lot of it, a great share of it before they actually, they wrote it all down eventually, but they passed it down orally first, right? And so, that's so underrated for me. I'll just go first and say, like, it's underrated, like the things we tell about what we did or what we've done or what we're going to do, and if there's repetition in that. But that's powerful. I agree with that one. It's a good one.
When you talk about story, it's like, what kind of story are we telling? I love when you say, Ben G says we're going to be living a legacy either by design or by default, right? One way or another, we're leaving a legacy. So we're telling a story no matter what. It's like, what kind of story are we telling?
I love it.
Yeah, there's this book that I read from Andy Stanley. It's called Better Decisions, Fewer Regrets. And he breaks down, life into 5 questions. And one of them is like story. It's like, and that's the question is like, what kind of story are you telling with your life? And I think he asks like, and he does relate it to legacy, but then he asks like, are you telling a story based like through your decisions and, the things that you're doing with your life and your character that is worth then being told and being, passed. And like, you think about like, when I think about people that like I'm, really fond of or like heroes, in my life, I think, and they're dead now, but you can look back like Billy Graham, like is a big example. And I think about, man, that guy had a legacy. Like everybody knows of Billy Graham. Everybody knows what he was about. Everybody knows what he did and why he did it. And I mean, I imagine like, he was intentional with that story that he was telling.
Yeah. This is like a little bit of a rabbit trail, but I think it's worthwhile in my mind because the narratives, from a leadership perspective, there's kind of like a narrative control that we have or a narrative responsibility. So a certain part of it is like we're going to live it, and that's just our job to execute that. Like we're taking you to church, whether you like it or not, we're going, right? And that's just like lived, but we made that executive decision, right? And then there's like all these false narratives or false memories where it helps that we go back to the oral tradition. And so like an analogy for the Jewish example would be, we talked about it before on the podcast, but Exodus 6, the Shema, like we were slaves in Egypt, God rescued us, and now we're going to teach you the story and teach you the law over and over when you rise and when you eat and when you sleep, and on the way, we're going to just keep telling it to you. How does that become relevant? Well, here's a really cheap analogy to that biblical version. Riley and I were watching one of our favorite rom-coms. It's a dying art form, I'll say, because they're usually really dirty now. Like they're so bad and you can't even get through them. But our definition of a rom-com is like, something that we can still watch and it just doesn't completely devolve into like gratuitous sex like within 5 minutes, right? And there's this one that's very modern in the last like 2018, 2019. I'll pull up the name in a second for anyone who really cares. But it's a great comedy. Like 2 Asian lead actors who are hilarious. They're so good, and they grew up together as kids.
I think we watched that.
Yeah,
too.
definitely, maybe or maybe yes, maybe something like that. I'll get the title in a second. But anyway, so I'm getting to a point, and the point is this: like they're almost like siblings, and that's what's so crazy. They fall in love. Spoiler alert, but. Like it's a pure-hearted love because they feel like family, but it feels like family love. That almost what makes it feel good. Wow. But her parents were like abdicated their responsibility because they were establishing a restaurant, so they're never home. So where's she? Always at her friend's house. And they grow up 10 years later, and they grow apart, and they come back together, of course. And she's like, it was the worst. I was abandoned. I was neglected. And he's like, it wasn't as bad as you think. He's constantly hammering her like, you've come up with this what? You've come up with this meta narrative about how abused and victimized and abandoned you were. And your parents weren't around as much at dinner time, but like, it's not how you're remembering it. And I just think that's such a poignant example of like people I meet every day who are like, and maybe we had a shared experience. Think about that. You have a shared experience with a friend or neighbor or someone from church, and you both had the same experience, and they're walking away telling a different narrative of it. And you're like, who is there to check them and be like, wow, that's not what happened, you know? And someone might say, well, everyone's free, perception's reality, and it's different takes. Yeah. But there's some things where I feel like we have to say as legacy makers, gatekeepers of the legacy, like, no son or daughter, no family member, or no husband or wife, like, that's not true. Like, that's not how it happened. You know, and that sounds very negative, but this is what did happen. This is how God did show up in that time. Wow. Well, why did mom and dad get sick? Or why did brother and sister have this injury or did this gnarly season? Like, that was the worst. No, that's not what happened. You know, like God pulled us through. He provided. We never met God like we did in that season. You know, so back to Beto and you, Benny. I think whoever's saying it, narrative matters a great bit. Sorry, that was a rabbit trail. Wow. I'll look up the name of the movie
while
now.
we're on the topic of cliches, I mean, glass half full, glass half empty, right? Which story are we choosing and what story are we telling ourselves, right? And are we not characters in our own story? And what kind of character are we, what do we see ourselves as in the character in our story and the story that we're telling ourselves? And I think, are we, I see so much the victim mentality out there.
Right. Yeah.
Do we have a victim mentality or a victor mentality? And that can play into our legacy as well. What we're leaving behind are these mindsets for our children.
Right.
Scarcity mindsets and ones of abundance. And which one are we choosing?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you brought it way better home than I could have. That's what I'm saying. There's so many. You gave great examples of those things.
Building on the foundation you
inadvertently laid down, and that's such a prominent one. Scarcity versus what was the word you used? Abundance. Yeah, I mean we just inadvertently are like, not gonna have enough. No, we're poor. No, we can't do that because blah blah blah. And they're like, what are they gonna say 20 years later when they ask? They're like, no, I didn't have nice things because we were poor, or whatever. Sorry, the name of the movie for sake. Always Be My Maybe. 2019.
Yes.
Film, Always Be My Maybe.
Yeah, we watched that.
There's a Keanu Reeves cameo that's worth the whole film. It is just so glorious. It's funny. It's pretty funny. So,
and I speak a lot on abundance, but I need to choose it every day. I mean, I'm fighting for it. Yeah. Every day I'm working towards it.
Right. It's good.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
Talking about Keanu Reeves, Matrix Resurrections is horrible, man.
What?
Did you guys ever see the original Matrix?
Yes, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I just watched that for the first time.
And I watched the Resurrections. It's like, what is this?
I heard. So sad.
What's the Resurrections?
It's like the fourth episode of Matrix.
They revived it, dude.
They revived a new one?
It was like done, finished.
You kind of remind me of Keanu a little bit.
They did a fourth one.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's getting roasted from everyone I care about.
Really?
So I trust
with
Beto.
The beard. Oh, it was so awful. Anyways, but narratives.
Movie reviews podcast.
Because we're talking about narratives.
Right. Yes, dude.
And even, whatever. This pastor that said, whoever controls the story or whoever tells the best story controls the culture.
Let's go.
Right? And it's almost like this sense, right? Like, what if this guy, if you think of Matrix Resurrections, nobody cared that much because it was awful. The story was not good. So it's the same. It's almost like the same with our lives, right? And if we have, even with the mindset and the victor attitude and all of that, it's yes, you have the background of whatever happened to you. But, I heard this from this woman that worked for George W. Bush, and she said, it was amazing, but she said where you started is not necessarily where you need to end up, right? But there's a part of your story that you need to acknowledge and you need to take ownership of and say, okay, yes, this is my past. It might have been painful. I might have been even a victim of whatever, right? But there is a moment when you get to decide and choose.
That's it.
Can I have a better future?
That's it
for myself. There's a decision you need to make, and we were even comparing it to like the prodigal son, right? When it says he came to his senses, like that little phrase is like he realized there's got to be a better way. I need to take action and change my future. Right. And in this case, it involved humility and coming to the Father, and the Father just lavishing on him.
Yeah.
regardless, right? But it's so good.
A further clarifier of what I was saying earlier, by the way, you just did a way better job. Like, we're not trying to convince people that didn't happen to them. I love what you said a second ago about, like, maybe they were abused or misused or whatever, and it's not telling them, no, that didn't happen, but helping them through their interpretation and how they grow through it and how they retell it. That you nailed it. I love what you said.
So good. We're tying into like the whole building blocks idea, and story is definitely one of the building blocks of a family legacy. I liked what you were saying, George, about being the hero and the idea of story in your story. Because
I didn't even say that word, but I'm so glad you did.
I thought you did say that. Okay, that's what I heard.
You did.
It was amazing.
I needed that word.
Being the hero of your own story, but it's like it implies that there was a downfall, or like there was struggle, because a hero is the one who rescues or saves or redeems. And so story, I love the idea of story because it's so important that in a family and as we're developing our family legacy, that we remember like our story and we look back, like, what the Israelites did. They looked back.
Wow.
And they remembered like where they came from. They remembered, what they went through and the horrible things that, happened to them. And then they also remember how they came out of it and because of God. More in like a family sense, it's like, man, like my grandparents, they struggled hard, and then they realized a different way, and then they figured it out and they started implementing that, whatever.
Right.
Because it draws in a sense of humility and like remembrance, and I think also just like a willingness and like a teachable spirit, because you're willing to reflect and you're willing to learn from your past, from your history, your family history. So a story is like such a vital component. Yep. But we're kind of jumping around. What else? Like, what else comes to mind with you
when you're talking about that? You're talking about like testimony, right? And wasn't it in Revelation?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was like Revelation 3
or
something like that, where they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whoa.
Yeah, you have to have story. You have to know your history. You have to know what you've come through.
I mean, isn't it like one of the most powerful ways that we can share faith is by just like sharing testimony? Mm-hmm. It's like totally authentic. And so, I look at like a story, right? We're talking about what story we're telling ourselves, and are we choosing victimhood or to be victorious? And you look at the word where it says in multiple different scriptures, like that we're to take joy through trials of many different kinds. We're being completed, we're being perfected. And I just look back to, a lot of the things that I've experienced, and I'm like, dude, like I'm built for this. Like God's building me for these things, like why has he let me go through storms? Well, it's like, that's where my testimony has come from, right? I'm looking through like my wife having battled and with autoimmune and unwellness for several years here. We could have easily fallen into victimhood. I'm sure we've fought it off and fallen in that trap several times, but it's like now we're looking at how God's going to use it.
Yeah.
And like she's going to be victorious over this and then have like the most powerful story to share because of it. And it's a choice in that.
So good. Mm-hmm. I love that. Well,
not an easy one.
Right? No, definitely not. But leading from that, like, knowing our story, how does that impact today and like how we choose to live today? Because that's kind of another core pillar of a family legacy, or a building block of a family legacy, is like today. What are we doing about it? Like, what does that mean? Or what comes to mind around that? What'd you say?
I think about tradition. I think those are building blocks that we can do today. Start now, choose now. Like what George was finishing saying made me think about decision and choice and the power of that. And to not make it perfect, but to put your finger down. Like I'm often talking about this with the staff at the church, and some of the guys are newer to programming and events and calendars, and like, maybe will I, is this the right one? And I just say, hey, no matter the what or the how, put your finger down on the calendar and it will be real. Like it will come. It'll come to fruition if you force your feet to the fire and just pick a day.
I love that.
And so I think that's an extended way of explaining tradition, but it just takes time. Like a huge, I'd say an interchangeable term for legacy, Ben, is intention. That's obviously what you guys are talking about, legacy makers, all the time, but intention and decision and tradition, starting today.
So good. Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me when it comes to today is like taking the things that we've learned in our past, and then how do we, like, what are the things that we want to, that, you know, like you said, Beto, what are we deciding today? Like, what are we going to decide and choose into or not? You know, like choosing into certain things and choosing away from other things based on what we've kind of learned. To me, that comes around like the way that we identify and determine our core values to guide us, you know?
Yeah. I would say if I think of today, I think one of the bands, I think you said truth, right? And if I'm thinking, what is something I want to pass on like right now to my kids, is that, right? And I think this is where wisdom comes and where the Holy Spirit comes, because the Holy Spirit can help us differentiate truth from lies. Good. And truth is essentially it's the one that's going to give you the wisdom to make the right decision, like right now. And it could be, I mean, first, I think it's the intention of the heart, right? Like the true intention of whatever you are choosing to do in the moment, right? And I think that's what Jesus was getting at, like all the time with, the people giving money in the offerings and saying, this woman gave everything she had, these people gave what was left over, right? And it's an attitude of the heart. But what reveals the truth is, I think it's the Holy Spirit, but it's also that, Jesus said, right, ask for the Holy Spirit and the Father will give it to you. So it's like God wants us to live in truth. God wants us to know what's right, right? And I think if that's something we are conscious of, and then we are digging in Scripture for wisdom, the Psalms, the Proverbs, those are great for wisdom, and then just apply it to the day-to-day, So when we get to choose whatever interaction we're having, are we doing? So, for example, like the other day, Millie, my wife, was saying something like, she got invited to something, right? I'm super bad with that type of memories. I got it so short and I forget. But it was something like she got invited somewhere, but the point was her response to the invitation was, what can I gain from this invitation, right? If I go to this event, then I get to hang out with people and maybe they get to know me and then maybe blah, 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 right? So you get the point. So the point is, are you going there to even think of others before you think of what can you gain from this meeting that people are inviting you into, right? So that it's just like a simple example of how in the day-to-day you get to choose, am I doing this for myself, for my egotistical purpose, or am I doing this for more of a legacy, or to impress on somebody else, or something like that. So anyways, I believe truth is the one that can help us differentiate why we are doing the things we're doing.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to be in trouble with Millie, bro, and this is your last episode, so let's just dig the grave for Beto now.
I was thinking the same thing.
He's done.
So the building blocks, the key word today, right? And we were talking about abundance versus scarcity. I was actually in a conversation with a friend yesterday telling him I was struggling with scarcity and wanting some advice, and he said, some counsel, he said, he was coming from a great place of wisdom and just gone out like a 5-dayer out in the desert and spent an overnighter by himself just talking to God. He said God put like this song on his heart. He like wrote a song. He can't even sing. He's never written a song. Like had all this fresh revelation and reset. But he shared with me he just focuses on what he can do today. And I just thought that was such a powerful thing that I wanted to share. And then I actually did pull up an article in Forbes yesterday about abundance. I didn't even realize we were going to talk about abundance today, but 5 ways to overcome abundance. I thought I'd share 1, gratitude; 2, focus on what I have; 3, train my mind to recognize possibilities. So like solutions rather than problems. Surround myself with people who have mindsets of abundance. And create win-win situations. I thought that was really cool and worth sharing. But then also, building blocks. I had the pleasure of meeting with your father-in-law, Ian Stevenson,
nice
a couple weeks ago, right? One of my favorite pastors of all time. And I was just asking him, I'm like, man, like, give me some wisdom. Like, how do my daughters turn out like yours, right? Like your wife and Heather. I mean, come on, she's so filled with the Spirit, and right.
Yeah, they're great.
We went to a prayer meeting the other night. It was just amazing, and he said prayer. That was like the number one thing he told me.
Yep.
I took a bunch of notes, but he also said, teach them how to think, not what to think.
Yeah.
And I just love that.
Amen.
Because wisdom is like an opportunity kind
So
of thing.
good.
And then, I just wanted to share, because I kind of shared a little bit about my wife and some of the victories that she's had over the last few years. And I just want to say, like, dude, she stands victorious. Like, no matter what, in my eyes, like, she's already victorious, and she is the hero of my story.
I love that. Well, first of all, I love what you're saying about the 5 ways to experience abundance, or however you said that.
Overcome scarcity.
Overcome
Or
scarcity.
experience abundance, yeah.
That's so huge for today and for the moment today. And something that, I mean, just even as people are in circumstances or in the whirlwind in the chaos of life, and kids are going nuts, jobs going crazy, it's, life's tough, whatever the whirlwind may be for you. Those are huge. I was thinking one thing I would add too, and that kind of leads me to another key building block for family legacy. And I mean, I know I'm kind of framing up this conversation, so I've kind of pre laid out the points here. But the another building block I would say is thinking about where are we going, which I kind of reflected on that in the idea about story, but like, what story do I want told about me? How do I want to leave a mark, or how do I want to be remembered? And there's a concept from a book that I read recently called The Laws of Performance, and the third law has to do with using future-based language, which you just referenced it, and speaking like victory over Sapphire, and saying, you're standing in victory, and like she is victorious, or she, like, it just is. And I like that, and I think it's so critical when we're thinking about family legacy, because it's the future-based language, and in our terms, it's our mission, or which really becomes our core identity, and it's those phrasings that become like where we're going, and like it almost ties into all of it, because it pulls us out of the past, out of the present, and into where we're going, and like who we want to be. And I use this analogy nowadays in legacy mapping. For the last session, I talk about our mission and our core identity, and I tie in the story of Lewis and Clark. If you remember Lewis and Clark, Thomas Jefferson gave them an objective to find a navigable water route from the East Coast to the Pacific Ocean. And you see the progression of their journey as they're canoeing up this river, up to Minnesota and over to Montana, and all of a sudden the great Rocky Mountains start coming up over the horizon, and the current starts to get stronger and stronger the wrong way. And so they're realizing, oh no, this isn't going to work. And then you see in some of the journal entries of Meriwether Lewis, and you see how you started to reflect upon, like, why did we even do this in the first place? And he remembered that before their objective, that he remembered like what Thomas Jefferson named their group, which was called the Corps of Discovery, the CORPS, Corps of Discovery. And, the values that they had kind of were founded upon. And it was the remembering of that core identity being a core of discovery that enabled Lewis and Clark to say, okay, you know what, maybe this isn't the way that it's going to work. The map wasn't translating to real life. And so much so in our own lives, it's like sometimes life happens. Sometimes we get in a rut, or something tragic happens, or we move and things just get thrown up in the air. And it's like, how do we keep going? And something that we've really, established is like, we have to know our core identity. We have to know our core mission. Like, this is who we are. This is where we're going.
So good.
And that is what helps us navigate through the craziness of life.
So they use in that story, I heard it from Pastor Mike like a couple of times because I'm the video guy, right? So I get to edit stuff and then I listen to stuff over and over and over. So I heard that story, and what it's epic about the story, I'm sure you know, but you didn't mention right now, is that in order for them to complete the mission, they had to drop the canoes and become adventurers and explore. Exactly. Right? On foot. And I think that's part of the epicness of the story. And if we think of future, totally. I feel like this is where maybe flexibility, but also creativity comes. And it's the point where, okay, I mean, who are we going to be as a family, even if an obstacle or a challenge comes up? Do we know what our mission and our vision is? And is that strong enough that we are capable to say, okay, this is the moment where evidently we need to drop the canoes and do it in a different way because we have this objective.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So good.
Love what you guys are saying. So powerful. And so we're talking about like the future.
Yeah, in that sense.
The future.
It's like, establishing that.
Well, this kind of plays along with a lot of the other things we're talking about mindset and abundance and stuff like that. But my wife was reading this book. This guy's a Christian and some type of like brain scientist or something. And he was able to prove that our thoughts and imagination can actually get under our skin. I'm doing air quotes of our DNA and can turn on and off certain genes.
Whoa.
Changing the structure of the neurons in our brains. From every level, molecular, genetic, epigenetic, structural, neurochemical, electromagnetic, and more. So basically, we have the ability through our thoughts and imagination, which in my sense is like, vision, like future kind of thing, imagining, to actually like be our own brain surgeons.
Dude, I love that. I mean, how many people out there are stuck in a certain pattern or a belief system or, that's not really resourceful for them or,
they can
motivating.
They call them loops.
Yeah.
Called. It's like a brain
super
loop.
You
read that book, Love and Respect. They talk about the energizing cycle and the what's the other one? The crazy cycle.
Yeah, crazy
cycle. It's like a loop that you're stuck on. If somebody jumps off and gets on the energizing cycle, they can like switch the whole thing around. It's like how our brains really work.
Tying into what you were saying, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the same scientist, but we've done some research on like
there's only a few scientists.
There's only a few,
only two.
So it's probably the same. We've done some research on generational trauma and like thinking about our stories and like, a certain level of trauma can actually alter your DNA and genetics, and you can and so to where that like future generations, like your kids or your great grandkids or however whatever, could experience some of the downfalls of that moment for a previous generation.
That is correct, unless we get off that loop and onto a new one,
which is what you're saying.
Correct.
Using the imagination to start, man, it's so cool.
I think you're talking about the science of a miracle. Right? Because I mean, did miracles really happen?
Wow.
And if they did happen, weren't they so crazy? Like things like
how good
there's
is that?
5,000 people fed with 2 loaves and 3 fishes or whatever it was.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, right? But in what you're saying, it's maybe in this case it's fish, right? And it's like a tangible food, but people that I've heard, and even the Bible says, somebody's hand was bad, and then Jesus comes and heals the hand, and then is restored. So something that physically gets back to shape. I mean, I feel like that's exactly the science of what happened, right? I mean, how do you describe it? Something in your brain.
It's definitely the neuroscience. So I would argue that a miracle, by definition, breaks natural law. So there's natural, which is science. You'd say anything explicable is natural, is scientific, so it's explicable. Like, and a miracle by definition breaks those laws. It's inexplicable, right? But where I affirm what you all are saying, I did this for a sermon prep one week, trying to make this point about how are faithful people different, and it's true that this extends probably broadly to all religious people if they believe in a higher power or God of whatever their design, but versus a non-believing person, the scientific evidence about those people It's not just like they're warmer or happier or they had better, days than sad days. We're talking about they live 5 years longer. They live 5 years longer.
Oh.
They're you just listed all those things that are probably the fancy way of saying it, but they're heart disease, cancer, and stroke, lower incidence. I'm talking about biological metrics for people that have faith.
Who have faith.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that ties
So
really...
It connects to just the way I say it is that's the connection between faith and the supernatural. Yeah. I don't know about science and supernatural, but definitely that's the connection of like, we've always wondered, how can just believing something, why does God need our faith? And why is he looking peering over the edge of the world, looking for faithful people? Well, he wants to partner with that to do something wonderful. And it matters. It makes a biological difference. Sorry, Benny.
No, I was just going to tie in to something that Beto works a lot with, and it's the idea of hope. And hope is what, I'm not sure how you say it, but like hope helps us, think about where
I have
where
a
we could go.
tagline, man, called "Hope is the future."
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's so good.
It's true.
I'm gonna
It's true.
trademark that.
You better.
Love that. Before this airs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before I only have 5 minutes to do it.
I didn't want to get us off topic, but Ben got me wanting to ask you your opinion of miracles, but that's completely separate here, and if they're still taking place today.
Off topic.
Yeah, but I think the theme, to tie it back, Benny, I can help, is the way we think. All that we're talking about right now, as it ties back to legacy, is the way we think matters a great deal.
Yeah.
What we, being even faithful people, matters a great deal for the worlds we create, the futures that we hope for.
Yeah.
Benny, how much time do we have? I have like a
We're at 36.
brain crusher from your list. I think we should end on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No.
Unless we have more time.
I just really quick. Is there anything? There's two more points I kind of want to hit on really quick, as far as what goes into the building blocks of a family legacy. But is there anyone that would want to lead us into those two things?
Oh, which ones?
The last two, which would be the foundational piece and then the roof piece. So we've talked about the three pillars in our mind, which is the past, present, future, or the story, our values, what we're doing today, and then our mission, which is future-based. And then the foundation is... Anyone else want to say?
So you're saying...
No, you say it, dude. You say
I think
Prayer.
we're talking about...
Prayer. Okay. So 6. So what we didn't know, and the audience didn't know, is that you were painting a Legacymakers recommendation for that house.
Yep.
And now we got it. Now we're back on board. And I'm prepared to talk about prayer because I love what George, I'll say this really quick, but George was saying about the Ian Stevenson story and that it's pray for your kids. Like, I'll confess, even as a pastor, like I have not had a very robust prayer life for my kids, and I got 10 of them now. And like, I'll full admission, full disclosure, it was even in the second half of the kids, like maybe 5, 6, 7 onward, where I started praying them over the womb, and I would just truly believe, like I'm speaking over this womb, I'm speaking over the soul, I'm speaking over this life, and I'm going to speak into this tummy and into this life and believe it, But the one thing that I picked up from someone somewhere that I pray for in terms of our kids is that I pray each one of them would have 10x, 10 times as much faith that I do. And it's one of my favorite kind of fun prayers. I just pray that they would just absolutely if I fancy myself a strong believer or a Christian leader or a pastor or whatever, I pray that every one of them, boy and girl alike, would be 10x as faithful, as spirit-filled, as, just taking leaps of faith than me. And I think that there's power in those prayers.
Oh, there's definitely power in those prayers. That. And, I've been experiencing that prayers are answered over time sometimes.
Totally.
And I've encountered, I'm like, was that an answer to prayer just now from like 3 years ago?
Just flew by.
Yeah. And I truly believe they are.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Good. Yep. Got to lay a foundation in prayer. The last one, though, on top is the roof, which is the way we would describe intentionality. The roof kind of holds it all together. It's like the walls, the foundation, and the roof is like what keeps it all tied together. And it's establishing a rhythm of intentionality within each pillar and even the foundation, establishing that rhythm.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I'll add to the prayer, the foundation of prayer. I mean, prayer in the name above every other name, in the name of Jesus Christ, right? And laying on that foundation, one that's on solid bedrock and not on quicksand. So I'd say, that's the foundation I want to lay on, and praying about the blood of Jesus over my children, and just like that's just the most powerful thing, what I'm saying. And then we're in authority in recognizing that this is something Sean Kapoff gave to me today, that like God is for us, like He created this universe for us to thrive in and to be fruitful and to multiply. Like such a powerful thing to like take hold of that, so to like lay on that foundation,
right?
and go from there.
Right, that narrative foundation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh,
Our first job description.
exactly.
That's the first job description ever given. Adam and Eve. Go work the land, guard the land.
Yeah.
Work it. And like I was just reading that this morning as well, but we take that for
that.
granted. Like, what did they have to do? It was Eden. It was perfect. It was like heaven on earth. And yet there's God giving instructions. Guard it. Protect it. What? Why did they have to protect from? Well, duh. We see that, right? 2 chapters later. But like there was work to be done, and even they forgot their job description. I love that, George. It's good.
Remember when we were in that time of like prophecy? We were reading that book of the prophetic and stuff.
Exploring the prophetic.
Yeah, Exploring the Prophetic.
Sean Bowles.
Yeah, powerful stuff. You know that guy.
I know that reference, but I didn't know you guys were doing that.
Yeah, and
That's
so man, like all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm a prophet. So no, the Lord
Dude,
was
you
giving
are.
me words
Are you
for
kidding me?
people.
Oh, yeah.
The Lord was giving me.
I mean,
words
even some
for
of the
me,
stuff
dude.
happening in the world, like you were saying 15 years ago.
Well,
sick.
the Lord like would come through with words for people. There's some really powerful stuff where they're like, "You're kidding, right?" Like, they're like, "You don't know what that means." I'm like, "No, but he said you would," and then, like, he totally did. But like as we're talking
That's
about this
amazing.
roof, right? The Lord gave me in our old kitchen, in my old kitchen.
Yeah.
The word for you and your wife is rafters. Dude.
Yeah, I remember that.
That you guys are like the beams, dude, like the framework of the household of God over here.
So
and
good.
look at you guys just like building up the family.
So good.
So
I know,
the
man.
rafters, I mean, dude,
I love that.
right?
That
Support
word,
structure.
bro. That's what we founded on right there.
Amazing.
Powerful. Well, is there any other thoughts before we finish up, Ben? I know you were going
Lightning round.
to
This
just
is
drop
heavy.
a bomb.
It's
Lightning
gonna be,
round.
and
90
like,
seconds.
It's
90
deep,
seconds.
super deep. So I know that's why. I don't know.
There's a lot to
build
unpack
up.
here, but
You got
we'll-
this thing, the question on our notes. Again, forgive us, audience, for having the show notes here privately. We can post them because Beto's a master and he can do anything. He can work magic and supernatural. Anyways, lasting. I'm latching onto this word, lasting family legacy. How to do it. And I was just thinking, every one of us in this room has kids. Like, have you ever thought about what you hope, like non-negotiable sticks when you're dead and gone? And there they are, man. They're just living their own lives and building their own legacies now. What are the like non-negotiable? I pray to God they have this XYZ thing. Like if nothing else, if all the ridiculous traditions we tried this year or whatever else we did that we stuck to the wall, and like no, this is what they have. They were willing to live or die on the XYZ things. Yeah. What would that be? It's kind of a trip thing to think about.
Are you asking us?
Yeah, I'm asking.
I got mine written
I don't
down
have
right
an
here.
answer ready. I'm just saying.
Oh, come on, man. Right here. Intimacy with God, number 1.
How long is this list?
5.
All right,
But that's the top.
We'll allow 5.
Oh, I don't have to
give
share
us the top 3. No, give us the top 3.
Intimacy with God, intentionality, and holistic growth.
It's awesome. It's good.
There's other ones, adventure and community. The others.
He went for the
Top 5 though. There's a clear process that you can actually walk through.
Oh, really? Tell us more about it.
That actually help you identify all of those very clearly. Recommended it. I won't tell you what it is.
Go to
but-
chooseonlegacy.com. Meow, meow, meow.
What else? What about you guys? Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable. Man, that's deep. I
Like,
think
another way of asking it would be like, you succeeded. Like, the legacy's continuing on if they have XYZ or they are XYZ.
yeah. Mine is pretty weird because I feel like regardless, but okay, the word is freedom.
Nice.
Freedom.
Yes.
Love it.
Okay, but freedom is tricky, right? Because there's freedom from and freedom to, and but it's freedom.
That's
Freedom.
cool. That's
Well,
good.
I'll just leave it
I
at
have
that.
2 words, but I'll go with the first one is faith.
Yeah.
If they have faith, then
And then the close second.
I've left my mark. Well, which is even more important, I guess, biblically than the first is love.
Yeah. That's
Nice.
good. No, I think that's relevant. There's a lot of faith leaders out there that don't got no love. So that's
Ben, what's
cool.
your success, money, fortune? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, they got to be rolling. Like each one of them, bare minimum. They figured out the crypto thing, and they just kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, my answer's faith as well. No
Yeah.
surprise. I just want them to be
So good.
faithful people.
I love it. Well, good job, guys. Thanks for sharing. So the building blocks, past, present, future, intentionality, prayer. Story, values, mission is the idea between past, present, future. Thank you for listening in. One last note. I will end on this bomb really quick. And we were in this legacy mapping experience the other day. And in a moment of prayer, we kind of had this cool God moment. And, the idea that family legacy really becomes this house structure of the 3 pillars and the foundation and the roof, and it really becomes almost like a multi-generational family relay race, where the one generation or the generations that are still alive are there to guard and protect this family legacy, and then do everything that they can to make sure that this family legacy gets passed to the next generation, like in a relay race. Like we're running a race. It's bigger than us. It's not about us. It's like we're guarding and protecting and building this legacy, and we're going to pass the baton of this legacy to the next generation, and they're going to run their leg of the race. So
beautiful.
There we go. Thank you guys for listening. See you next time.
Peace.
At Legacymakers, we are igniting a movement of families living on purpose so that every generation should set their hope anew on God. And you choosing to listen to this episode today is only going to further that movement and further the development of the legacy you will leave for generations. So thank you for being a part of that. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a legacy maker, go to www.chooseourlegacy.com, where you're going to find resources and tips and next steps to continue building the legacy that you intend to leave. You can also follow us on all social platforms at Legacy Maker Families. Thank you so much again for listening, and now go love your family.